one of the fantasy football and NFL season finally on its way, with tomorrow the Dallas Cowboys at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But right now I'm here to talk about quarterbacks, and here's a few quarterbacks I would bench this week. The first guy is Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So coming into the season for my quarterback rankings, I had Roethlisberger finishing as a top 15 quarterback this year. But this week, I just don't like the matchup here in week one for Big Ben. It's going to be a tough matchup in Buffalo. You know that crowd's going to be amped up and ready to go. And Buffalo, they got a pretty solid defense. I know Big Ben, he's got good wide receivers, a nice new toy in the backfield as well in Najee Harris. But this is going to be a tough, grinded out game. I still think Big Ben could have a decent ball game here, but I don't think he's going to have that huge game. I could see him going for 250, maybe 2 touchdowns, 2 interception game, or even lower than that in this one. It's going to be a grinded out type of game like I mentioned. I think the Steelers, they're going to try to establish the running game a lot in this one. And Big Ben, he's a player not many fantasy owners even own in most leagues. Right now, he's only owned in 41% of fantasy leagues, as drafts wrap up in the next day or two before the league starts tomorrow. But anyway, I can't trust Big Ben in a tough situation at Buffalo, even though he has a lot of good weapons on his offense. But right now, he's an easy guy to bench this week, in my opinion, with all the good quarterbacks out there. The next quarterback I would bench this week is Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. I know a lot of people drafted Prescott anywhere from the 6th to the 9th round in their fantasy drafts. But here in week one, I think it's going to be a tough week here for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, going over there in Tampa versus the defending champs in opening night. And also, it don't help that Zach Martin, their best offensive lineman, obviously, and one of the best in all of pro football, was out of this game after he got placed on the COVID list last week. And also, we don't know how that ankle is with Dak. We don't know how the shoulder is as well, because he missed a lot of training camp with tight shoulder inflammation and stuff. And right here, we don't know if he's 100% after that devastating reconstructive ankle surgery. So Dak last season, we know he got off to an amazing start before he went down with the injury in week 5 or 6 last year. But it's going to be a tough game, like I mentioned. Your best old lineman is out. Tampa, they're going to be trying to get to the quarterback early and often, and it's a tough ball game here. I still think Dak could put up decent numbers, but I'm not expecting the huge numbers here from Dak. I could see a mediocre line from him, maybe 220 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 windows. And that's not going to do much as far as fantasy points here. I know I'm going against the grain a lot, but I just don't like the matchup. I don't like that Zach Martin's out, and it's going to be a tough one here for Dak and the Cowboys, in my opinion. So right here, if you got a better option on your fantasy team at quarterback, which many people probably don't, I would bench Dak Prescott this week. And if you have Prescott and you're going to start him, obviously, I'm not expecting a big 30, 35-point fantasy day out of him this week. I just don't see it going down for whatever reason. And the third and final quarterback I would bench this week's Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Joe Burrow, he didn't play much in the preseason and all. And he's a guy coming off a big injury as well. So right here, I think it's going to take him a few weeks to get it going here as Joe Burrow. Last season, he showed some signs, no doubt about it, in his rookie season here with the Bengals. And then he went down later on in the year with the torn ACL. And I just don't think he had enough reps in training camp here to get things going. I know he's got a good offense around him with Tyler Boyd, obviously. They got Jamar Chase, who is one of his receivers with him in LSU, and they have a great rapport. And you also got T. Higgins, who was a good breakout wide receiver rookie last season. So Burrow, he's in a good offense. But just this week, I don't like him versus Minnesota. Minnesota's not the greatest of defenses, but they're a defense that can make a few plays, in my opinion, here. And like I said, Burrow, he just hasn't got the reps. So right here, the more he plays, the better he'll get. That's just about anybody for the most part, unless you totally stink at the quarterback position. But this week, I just can't trust Joe Burrow in a tougher matchup than you would think. And also, plus a guy who didn't have many reps in the offseason and in training camp. So right here, I think he's a safe quarterback to bench this week. And that's a few quarterbacks I will bench here in week one of the fantasy football season.